the UN is warning that the humanitarian situation in Gaza is now catastrophic, with food, water and fuel supplies dangerously low and more than 80,000 homeless.
Israel say they will not lift the blockade until all the hostages Hamas kidnapped during Saturday's terror attacks are released. The chair of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Professor Kamel Hawwash, joins us now. Professor Hawwash, it is a tragic situation on both sides. Israel last night published very, very graphic images depicting the murder of babies by Hamas. Are you shocked by the brutality of Hamas's actions here?
Good morning to you both. I haven't seen these pictures. I don't know when they were released, but the whole description of 40 babies, if that is the claim, that have been decapitated only in terms of media and accuracy and truth, has been absolutely shown to have been an untruth, if you like. But in any case, I, as an individual, as a person with a family, don't want to see anyone die in this conflict. I myself am Palestinian, originally from Jerusalem. So the Palestinians have real grievances that have been mounting over 75, 80 years. But I genuinely don't want to see anyone die in this conflict. And I don't want to see anyone lose a home, be injured. So it is really tragic, as you say, what's happened. And civilians on Palestinian and Israeli, and indeed other nationals apparently, have suffered a lot since Saturday. And I really want that situation to end, because more violence now being committed by Israel against the Palestinians will not bring a lasting peace in the future.
It is incredibly difficult to read the papers this morning. These horrific tales across every single newspaper. In fact, the Telegraph this morning has an advisory on the front page before you actually turn to some of the pictures, which are beyond description, actually, in terms of the barbarity of what is going on. It is an atrocity. It is worth mentioning that Hamas is a proscribed terrorist organisation. It has launched an attack on people in Israel. And you are right to say that also there are people caught on both sides who are innocent civilians. The death toll is over 3,000 now, 1,600 people in Palestine, 1,500 or thereabouts in Israel. These people are caught in the middle of this. And without question, the whole thing is barbaric.
Well, again, it depends on our ability to understand that there are two sides, that a Jewish Israeli life is equal to a Palestinian life, to any other life, and therefore today, as the barbaric attack by Israel is being committed, we should also be asking, which is against civilians. Last night, we should be asking for that to stop. There should be a ceasefire, and aid should be provided to the Palestinians without delay. As you said at the top of the hour, if Israel is saying 1 million people, just think, I live in Birmingham, and the population here isn't much above that a whole city is told to move. First of all, because of Israel's siege, where do they go? But in any case, I go back to my point that in the not just in the long term, but in the medium term, how will that help us arrive at the peaceful resolution? Last night, I saw a man outside the hospital in Gaza. He had come from an apartment block which had, he said, 200 people in it. And he said there are only 8 people in hospital. Now you can work out the numbers as to what that means in terms of casualties under the rubble. And in Gaza, they don't have the same sort of equipment that's used when there's a hurricane or an earthquake. So people are under the rubble. Again, you can see images of people's hands being just out of the rubble, trying to get help, but there are absolutely no pieces of equipment that will bring them out. They will die where they are. And Israel has declared that it does not look for accuracy. It is destroying wide swathes of communities. And that is a war crime in itself, because it is actually targeting civilians.
I mean, there are horrors on both sides, as David described. I mean, Israel has described it as an intelligence-led operation, but as we know, the circumstances, the geography of Gaza makes it very, very, very difficult for those civilians living there to avoid the bombardment by Israel, which it says will continue until Hamas is destroyed. But I want to ask you, Professor, now about the response from the United Kingdom. Rishi Sunak announced last night that it was sending military assets to the region, to Royal Naval ships, spy planes being deployed to the region. Here in the UK, money being spent on protecting the Jewish communities against anti-Semitic attacks. What is your response to the British reaction to this?
Yeah, long term, we must remember that it was Britain that provided the Balfour Declaration in 1917, which led to the dispossession eventually of the Palestinian people, because Zionist terrorist groups that committed massacres going back to 1947-48 drove out 750,000 Palestinians. Now, I say this because Britain was responsible for promising my homeland, our homeland, to people who didn't come from that homeland, and Britain wasn't even present on that land. So that's where it all started. But since then, Britain has continued to support Israel without any sort of restriction on that. But at the same time, it has not provided support for the Palestinians, as Israel has continued to oppress them since 1948. And even in the weeks and days leading up to what happened on Monday, the 7th of October, Israel was committing atrocities across the occupied territories, and it was desecrating through allowing break-ins into Al-Aqsa Mosque, a very holy mosque to the Muslim people, not just to the Palestinian people. Britain didn't really raise an eyebrow. On the contrary, it continued to declare that it stood with Israel.
Sorry, just to interrupt. Doesn't Britain have a responsibility to look after the Jewish community in this country that feels threatened by what is going on?
Yeah, I will talk about that. But what I'm trying to say is you have to apply international law. Israel is a serial breacher of that, and for Britain to even ignore...
As is Hamas.
Yes, nobody should be targeting civilians. But for Britain to just blindly support Israel, whatever it does, when it breaches international law, when at the same time it doesn't allow that, if you like, or it supported the Ukrainians in their plight. The Ukrainians are occupied, the Palestinians are occupied. It should be applying the law consistently and standing with the occupied people. Now, on the issue of communities here in the UK, I absolutely agree with you that no community here should feel unsafe, should be targeted by people who, being honest, may be hateful to them. So I certainly think that the Jewish community not only should be protected here, but should feel that they can live a normal life, go out in the morning, take the children to school. So I certainly stand with them as a British Palestinian Muslim. I stand with the Jewish community's safety unreservedly.
Professor, thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Professor Hawwash there.